Chapter 6. I arrived at school Wednesday morning determined to talk to Gail. Gail had always been a good friend. Her opinion mattered to me. I'd been so upset when I got home the night before, I couldn't even tell my parents about what had happened. We're a pretty close family, but this incident had really shaken me up. Rain poured from the sky as I parked my mother's car in the Shadyside High School lot. I limped across the street to the front door. A gray Saturn pulled up to the curb, and Lydia James hopped out. She covered her head with her backpack. "Hi, Lydia," I called. Lydia turned, noticed me, then glanced away. She jogged up the steps in front of me. The gray Saturn pulled away with Mrs. James behind the wheel. Lydia's mother shot me a nasty look as she rolled out into the traffic. Whoa, I thought, what did I ever do to her? I ran up the steps after Lydia and caught the door before it closed. "Lydia?" I repeated. "I said hello." She turned and nailed me with a hateful stare. A pair of girls giggled as they passed us. Lydia hurried off toward her homeroom. We were both late, so I didn't dare go after her. Besides, by that time, I'd figured out what was going on. Gail. Obviously, Gail had already talked to some of our friends. But what exactly had she told them? That I was a cat killer? How could any of them believe I was capable of something so cruel? Whom would Gail tell next? Would she write about it in the school paper? I sighed and limped down the hall. I dodged a bunch of other students who were running late. The door to my homeroom stood open. I could hear voices from inside. The bell rang as I slipped through the door. Most of the other students still stood around talking. The day didn't really begin until our homeroom teacher, Mrs. Howell, told us to sit down and be quiet. "You're late, Marty," Mrs. Howell snapped. I was totally taken by surprise. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Howell," I began. "Oh, just sit down," she ordered. "You're lucky I don't give you detention." "Detention?" I asked. "But what did I—" "Sit down," she snapped. She glared at me until I trudged to my desk and sat. By then, all the other kids were in their seats. "You should be ashamed of yourself," Mrs. Howell muttered as she passed my desk. My eyes grew wide. So that's what this was about. Mrs. Howell heard I killed that stupid cat. Gail had worked fast. I glanced around the room, searching for some kind of support. Some of the guys smirked, but others seemed angry. Most of the girls frowned at me. Great, I thought. I'll never get a date with a girl from Shadyside High again. "Gail has gone too far," I declared later to Dwayne and Barry in the lunchroom. "Dwayne, your little sister wouldn't even say hi to me in the hall after second period. Everyone in the school thinks I'm some kind of cat-killing psycho." Barry wolfed down his sandwich as if he were starving. Dwayne and I had gone for the hockey puck hamburgers. Ketchup spotted Dwayne's orange and blue Hawaiian shirt. "You know," Dwayne mumbled through a mouthful of burger, "this tastes a little like cat." Barry collapsed into a hacking fit of laughter. "Come on, you guys," I pleaded. "Give me a break. This is serious." They tried to get themselves under control. Barry pulled off his glasses and rubbed his eyes, wiping away tears of laughter. Dwayne tried to catch his breath. Then they glanced at each other, and that sent them into another fit of laughter. Their floor show started to draw stares from other students, and from the ladies behind the lunch counter. "Oh, this is really helping," I whispered angrily. Okay, Barry agreed. "You're right, Marty. Gail was out of line. But what can we do about it?" "Barry is right, man," Dwayne said. "We've both been telling everyone what really happened, but nobody seems to want to listen to the truth." "Hey, Marty, did you know that Gail is the president of the Animal Rights Club?" Barry asked. "I found out this morning," I grumbled. "She was probably the only member, too. Now I'll bet she has half the school signed up." After lunch, I headed for class. I saw a group of kids gathered in front of one of the bulletin boards outside the guidance counselor's office. I stood at the back of the group and craned my neck to see the poster that had caught everyone's attention. As I read, my stomach sank. In big black letters, the poster read, "Cruelty to Animals." The poster announced a rally to be held the next week. I saw my name on the poster, right above disgusting pictures of abused and tortured animals. As I stood in shock, a girl in front of me turned. Her eyes widened when she recognized me. Quickly, she nudged the boy to her right. Before I knew what was happening, I was being stared at by at least 20 angry students. I felt so ashamed, I said absolutely nothing to defend myself. I just turned and walked away. How could Gail do this to me? She had made me the most hated kid in school overnight with one piece of distorted gossip. Then I had a horrible thought. "Oh no," I gasped. "If this gets on my school record, there's no way I'm going to get that scholarship." I had to do something about it. But what? Later, I found Gail and Ricky hanging out in the gym with half a dozen other girls and 2 guys from the track team. "Gail, we have to talk," I declared. "You have got to stop telling lies about me." "Did you guys hear something?" a blonde girl asked snootily. Gail ignored me. Come on, Gail, we were friends up until yesterday, I pleaded. That's right, Marty, she replied coldly. We were friends. Up until yesterday. Fine. That's how you want it? I yelled. You're being a real jerk, Gail. One of the guys, Aaron Hatcher, started to come toward me. Back off, Aaron, I snarled. This isn't your problem. Yes, Aaron, stay out of it, Gail agreed. Otherwise, he might do to you what he did to that cat. Oh, man, I moaned. Aaron grabbed my arm. If Dwayne and Barry weren't there to drag me off, I probably would have hit him. Cool it, Marty, Barry whispered in my ear. You want to get suspended? You can't afford it, and neither can the basketball team. Bye, Marty, Gail sneered. You'll be hearing more from me soon. I thought friends were supposed to believe friends, I called after her. She paid no attention. Ricky had remained silent the whole while. Now she strode toward me. She took my arm and led me out of the gym into the tiled hallway. What were you trying to do in there? Ricky demanded. Isn't everything bad enough already without you acting like a total fool? You're right, but it's all so, I stammered. If you keep your mouth shut, maybe you can play ball again next week. You seem to be walking okay, she observed, changing the subject. Well, the knee is still tender, I admitted. Coach won't let me play this week, but next week I'm in. If you behave, she pointed out. Yeah, I sighed. People passed us on their way to class. Some stared. I'd always loved being the center of attention on the basketball court. This was different. I didn't like it at all. Come on, Ricky, can't you talk to Gail for me? I know you and I aren't exactly the best of friends, but you see what she's doing to me. I hate to break it to you, she replied, but I'm on Gail's side. I think you're a sicko for what you did to that cat. I think you deserve to be punished, but I don't want the team to miss the playoffs because of you. I don't know what you think happened up on those bleachers, I argued, but I never... Ricky's sudden look of shock made me stop in the middle of my sentence. Her eyes were riveted to my face. I reached up and touched my cheek. I lowered my hand and stared at my fingers. They were wet and red, with blood. Chapter 7. Marty, you're bleeding, Ricky cried. Yeah, I can see that, I answered sharply. That's where the cat scratched me yesterday. I thought the wound had closed. I must have irritated it somehow. I guess so, she said. I'll talk to you later, I told her. I took off to the boys' room without waiting for a reply. I splashed water on my face and then dried it off with a paper towel. I grabbed a fresh towel and dabbed tenderly at my forehead. After a minute or two, the bleeding stopped. I didn't know what I'd done to open the wound, but I was sure it would heal eventually. As I left the boys' room, I saw Coach Griffin. He stood inside the cafeteria door, searching for someone. I didn't want to talk to Coach right then. I turned the other way and hurried toward my locker. Harper, Coach Griffin called. He'd seen me. Come here a minute, will you? Reluctantly, I turned to face him. The coach lumbered toward me. Yeah, Coach? I asked. What's up? His eyes burned into mine. I think you know what's up, Marty, he replied. Not the coach, too, I thought. Coach, if this is about the cat... Yeah. I told him my side of the story, how I started to fall and accidentally let go of the cat. Coach Griffin glared at me. Marty, he began sternly, do you realize how lame that story sounds? Well, yeah, I guess I do, I admitted. But, Coach, that's what happened. I wouldn't kill an animal. You know, I've got a pet of my own. He stared at me a moment longer, and then his expression changed. I believe you, he said. Most of the teachers in the building feel the same way. Nobody wants to think you would be so cruel. I wouldn't, Coach, I insisted. I swear. But I wish Mrs. Howe felt the same way you do. The real problem isn't the teachers, Coach Griffin told me. The problem is the other kids, and more important, their parents. Huh? I cried. What about their parents? Coach frowned. If this gets in the newspapers, it could make the school look really bad. You know, a school has to worry about its public image. I thought about my college scholarship. I saw it flying out the window. I suddenly felt sick. I'm selfish, Marty, Coach confessed. All I care about is my basketball team. All I care about is winning a championship, and any bad newspaper stories are going to be very bad for the team. He frowned. The rumors are that you actually killed the cat, and that Dwayne and Barry helped you. What are you saying, Coach? I asked nervously. You want me off the team? His frown deepened. No, Marty. I want you back on the team as soon as possible. Problem with that is, the Animal Rights Club is making a big thing out of this. If you want to play in next week's game, well... What, Coach? I pushed. What do you want me to do? I'll do whatever I have to. The principal asked me to speak to you. He wants you to face the club's charges in student court tomorrow. But that isn't right, I protested. The student court kids are all Gail's buddies. If I go on trial there, they're going to eat me alive." "They'll be fair," Coach replied softly. But I knew they wouldn't be. I knew I was doomed. Chapter 8. Student court met in the gym the next day during lunch period. The maintenance crew brought in a teacher's desk for the judge. It stood under the far basket facing the bleachers. Next to that stood a wooden chair used as a witness stand. I sat in a similar chair facing the judge's desk. Everyone else sat on the bleachers. A lot of students and teachers were there. I searched the faces and breathed a sigh of relief when I saw that my parents weren't there. Last night, I told them the whole story. They were very understanding. They offered to attend the student court today and show their support for me. I felt grateful, but I told them I could handle it myself. But could I? Sitting there in front of everyone, I couldn't believe how nervous I felt. My hands were cold as ice. My mouth felt so dry I kept swallowing. I wondered if everyone could see how tense I was. I crossed my legs, tried to appear calm. After all, I knew I was innocent. But what would the student court decide? And if they found me guilty, what would my punishment be? Ricky was called up first. She seemed nervous too, but she told her version of the story simply. Dwayne and Barry followed. They did surprisingly well. Dwayne didn't try to be funny, and Barry told everyone about how much I love my dog and how I'd never hurt any animal. I'd always considered student court to be a goof, but suddenly I had to take it very seriously. My reputation and college career depended on it. Next, Mrs. Howell asked Gail to come forward. I stopped listening. At least, I tried to. But after a minute, I couldn't help it. "He grabbed it, and he threw it over the side of the bleachers," Gail was saying. "Then he and Dwayne and Barry swung it around, teasing us. Then I left." "That's not true," I shouted, jumping up from my seat. My voice cracked. A couple of kids laughed. "Sit down, Martin," Mrs. Howell ordered. "But I—" "Martin, sit down. You'll have your turn." I sat down. Finally, I got to tell my side of the story. I was questioned by a girl named Jessica Wells. She was acting as the lawyer for the Animal Rights Club. I had a lawyer, too. He would have the chance to ask me questions when Jessica was through. "So, Marty, you claim that you did not tease Gail with a dead cat, and you didn't throw it in the garbage?" Jessica asked, trying to sound like a real lawyer. "Absolutely," I declared. "You've already heard the same story from Barry and Dwayne, even from Ricky. I never touched it after—" "After what?" Jessica demanded. "When did you last touch the cat?" "Well, when I dropped it," I said. "When you dropped it?" Jessica asked loudly. "I see. Let me ask you one more question." "Okay," I murmured. "Did you tell your friends you were going to get rid of the cat?" Jessica asked. The auditorium filled with whispers and gasps. "Well, yeah, I guess I said that, but what I meant was—" No one was listening now. Everyone was talking and whispering. The jury stayed outside the gym for 15 minutes. When they filed back into the room, several of them wouldn't even look at me. They surprised me, though. "The jury finds the defendant, Martin A. Harper, not guilty of the murder of the cat," Carrie Donovan read. I heard groans and gasps of surprise from the bleachers. A couple of kids applauded. I let out a long sigh of relief. "However, in the matter of cruelty to animals, the jury finds you totally guilty," Carrie continued reading. Then she glanced up at me. "Jerk." "Hey," I protested. "That's enough, Carrie," Mrs. Howell scolded. "Thank you. Thank you all for taking this seriously and doing such a responsible job." Mrs. Howell leaned over the desk. "Martin, since you have been found guilty of cruelty, you will have to serve 30 hours of community service at the Shadyside Animal Shelter. Your sentence will begin this week." 30 hours? With studying and basketball, I wouldn't have a spare minute for weeks. I started to protest, but then I saw something move under the bleachers. I saw a shadow shift. A dark form slithered out from under the seats. Green eyes glared at me from either side of a black diamond spot. "Oh no," I moaned. It was the cat. The silvery gray cat. Chapter 9. It's there," I choked out. I pointed to the glowing green eyes under the seats. "The cat. It's alive." I jumped up. My legs trembled as I darted toward the bleachers. Several other kids leapt to their feet. They began peering under the seats. I heard a lot of laughter, a lot of confused voices. "There's no cat there," someone reported. "Were you looking at this?" a girl asked. She picked up a high-top sneaker from under her seat. It was there, I insisted, still pointing at the spot. It really was. Enough, Marty, Mrs. Howe cried. Just stop it. This isn't funny. You're right about that, I agreed. There's nothing funny about any of this. That afternoon, I brought my history book to practice. I sat on the sidelines reading my assignment. Finals weren't that far away. I figured I might as well get a head start. As usual, there were several girls behind me on the bleachers watching practice. One of them was Jessica Wells. She climbed down and sat next to me. She was majorly cute with bright, shining green eyes, a great smile, and long, straight brown hair. Hey? Hey. I wanted to say I'm sorry, she began. Being a lawyer in student council is something you'll have to do for social studies class. It was my turn. I didn't want to get you into any trouble. Well, I replied, thanks a lot. Most people wouldn't be caught dead even talking to me right now, since I'm a big, bad cat killer. She frowned. I'm glad they found you innocent of that part. The tigers pounded back and forth across the court, but staring into Jessica's green eyes, I barely remembered they were there. Yo, Harper, Dwayne called. When I turned to the court, he and Barry both gave me a thumbs up. I laughed, and so did Jessica. That was good. Then I noticed Ricky. She stood by the open double doors of the gym, glaring at me and Jessica. Hey, I called to Ricky. I smiled and waved her over as I would any other friend. Hi, Ricky, Jessica called. Ricky spun and marched out of the gym. Her back was stiff with anger. What's her problem? Jessica asked. I didn't really want to get into it, but I thought no answer would be worse than half of one. We went out a couple of times, I admitted. She doesn't know why I stopped calling her. Why did you? Jessica asked. The question caught me off guard. I don't know, I finally replied. I guess I just didn't want to get serious with her or anything. Jessica and I sat and watched basketball practice together in silence. The team played well. I thought they might actually be able to win without me the next night. When her friends came down the bleachers and headed for the doors, Jessica stood up. Well, my friends are leaving. I'd better go, she sighed. I said goodbye and thanked her for the kind words. Then I picked up my textbook and settled into my reading. A few minutes later, I heard a small cry. When I heard it again, I knew it was a meow. Chapter 10. With a startled cry, I leapt up onto the seat. Meow! I turned and saw 3 girls about a dozen steps above me. They were laughing. Had they made the cat sounds? Why was everyone being so cruel? After practice, Coach Griffin approached me. You should have been paying more attention to practice, Marty, he scolded. I wanted your feedback on how to cover for your absence. That's easy, Coach, I answered. Move Lenny to center and let Dwayne and Barry both play forward. The guards are fine where they are. Coach Griffin smiled. So, you paid attention after all. Some, I answered. Listen, Marty, I want you to know you did the right thing today, standing up for yourself. The student court made an example of you. He shook his head. I don't think that's fair. I'm going to try to get your sentence lightened. We need you rested up for your return to the game next Friday. I'll be okay, Coach, I promised. Besides, I've been thinking about it. I didn't kill that cat, but maybe I was a little cruel to it. I should take the punishment and serve the full 30 hours. Coach's eyes widened with surprise. You're a good kid, Marty, he whispered. But if you tell anyone I said that, I'll make practice your personal torture session every day until the season's over. I grinned. Thanks, Coach. That night after dinner, I studied history until well after 10 o'clock. Teddy, my Chinese Shar-Pei, slept soundly on my bed. Every once in a while, he would lift his head and shake his velvety, wrinkled body. When history didn't make sense to me anymore, I tried trigonometry. Every few minutes, I thought about the past 3 days, about Jessica Wells and Coach Griffin's comments. I also thought a lot about Gail and Ricky and about the poor, stupid cat. And I thought about seeing that cat under the bleachers during student council, and about hearing the yowling and hissing while the team practiced. Was I seeing and hearing things? Were kids playing a cruel joke on me? The phone rang, startling me. I glanced at the clock as I lifted the receiver. It read 11:15. Hello? Silence. Who is this? I demanded. Then I heard someone breathing, not heavily, the way most prank phone callers do. Softly. Hello? Who is this? I demanded again. I slammed the receiver down. My heart beat loudly in my ears. The phone rang again. I stared at it. The phone rang again. I swallowed hard. On the third ring, I picked it up. You're going to pay, Marty, a gruff female voice whispered. Do you hear me? You're going to pay for what you did. Hey, who is this? I cried. And then I recognized the voice. Chapter 11. "What's your problem, Ricky?" I asked furiously. "What's your problem?" Ricky shot back. "For the last time, I didn't kill that cat," I declared. "I'm not calling about the cat," Ricky growled. "I know what you did, you jerk." I flopped down on my bed next to Teddy. With a sigh, I stared out the window. "I want to go to sleep, Ricky. Why don't you just tell me why you're screaming at me in the middle of the night? Then we can both hang up and I can get some rest." Clouds drifted across the moon. I sank back on the pillow and stared up at the sky. "Well, Ricky," I repeated, "you sat there flirting with Jessica Wells, and then you waved to me as if everything were fine." "Oh, man." I sighed and closed my eyes in frustration. "Why do you care who I talk to? For the last time, I'm not your boyfriend, Ricky. Besides, I thought you hated me now, for killing the cat." "Jessica is only the latest insult," she snarled. "I hear you're interested in Kit Morrissey, too." "Please," I moaned. "What guy at Shadyside isn't interested in Kit?" "And," Ricky continued, "Gail told me today that she saw you out with Lisa Green the night you canceled a date on me. You said you were sick." She groaned. "You're such a liar, Marty. I can't stand to be lied to." What could I say? Ricky was right. Still, I had to say something to get her off the phone. "You know what, Ricky?" I said. "You're right. I went out with Lisa instead of you that night. We didn't have a good time, but you don't care about that. I lied to you because I thought it would be better than hurting your feelings." I took a breath. "Maybe I shouldn't have cared about your feelings," I continued, "but I hoped we could be friends. I guess I was wrong." "Were you ever?" she shouted so loudly I pulled the phone away from my ear. "Oh, you're such a sensitive guy, Marty, not wanting to hurt my feelings," she shrieked. "If you didn't want to hurt my feelings, you shouldn't have lied to me in the first place. I hate you. I really do." "Get a life, Ricky," I replied. She slammed down the receiver. I stared up at the sky, letting the dial tone hum in my ears. In school the next day, I minded my own business. I had no more interest in arguing with anyone about the dead cat. Most kids acted as if nothing had happened. Life pretty much returned to normal. By the end of the day, I felt much better. My sore knee still throbbed, but my mood was good. Maybe the whole awful thing was behind me. After supper, my dad dropped me off behind the school for the basketball game. I hobbled through the back entrance into the locker room. Coach Griffin called a hello. I stood by the door that led into the gym and listened as he gave his usual pep talk. As the team jogged past me, a lot of the guys patted my shoulder or flashed me a thumbs up. The crowd cheered when we entered the gym, but another sound soon joined the noise. It was meowing. The other team was mocking me. I felt sick with embarrassment and anger. I hung my head and wished I could be anywhere but in that gym. Dwayne shouted at them to shut up. Barry, Kevin, and some of the other guys started to yell also. But the other team didn't stop until Coach Griffin stalked across the court and whispered something to their coach. Soon after that, the meowing stopped. As the game began, I heard more meowing from the bleachers. I tried to ignore it and concentrate on the game, but it wasn't easy. At halftime, a gentle hand touched my shoulder. "You okay?" Jessica Wells asked. "I'll be all right," I sighed. "I wish I knew who was still spreading the word about the cat." She shrugged. "Probably Gail, don't you think?" "Who else?" I replied. "You know," she said, "I don't think they're making fun of you because you killed that cat." "What other reason is there?" I demanded. "I think they're making fun of you because you kind of freaked at the student court, when you said you saw the cat." "I did see the cat," I insisted. Jessica stared at me intently. "I don't know if it was the same cat," I added, "but it looks like the same cat. I don't know. I just want this stupid cat thing to go away." "It will, Marty," she promised. "Gail and the Animal Rights Club have organized a rally against cruelty to animals, but once that's over, just give it time." "Yeah, time," I muttered. "So," she said, her voice light, "I hear you're going out with Lisa Green?" I smiled. "Something funny?" she asked. "Sort of," I admitted. "The way rumors fly around this school." "So you're not going out with Lisa?" "We went out once," I replied. "But that's the whole story. We're just friends." Jessica grinned. "Good." We smiled at each other. Then we both lowered our eyes. I kept smiling, though. People could tease me all they wanted as long as girls like Jessica kept smiling at me. I didn't get home until nearly 10. I wanted to fall into bed and not open my eyes until morning, but I knew I wouldn't get much studying done during the next 2 nights at the animal shelter. I sat at my desk. I cracked open my math book and began to read. "Huh?" I jumped up when I heard cats screaming. Now fully awake, I crawled across my bed to the window and peered out. I could not see them, but somewhere out in the darkness 2 cats were fighting. Their cries were horrible, and very close to the house. Kneeling on the bed, I shut the window. It didn't help. I could still hear their fight, still hear them yowling and hissing at each other. Finally, I heard a deafening shriek, then silence. Whoa! I let out a sigh. Then I sank back into my desk chair and opened my history book, but I felt too tired to concentrate. On my third yawn, I decided to call it a night. I closed the history book and stretched. Something scratched at the window over my bed. I jumped up from the desk, knocking the chair to the floor. I stared at the window. Nothing there. Then I heard more scratching, claws against glass. My heart hammered in my chest. I heard a soft hiss. Then more clawing at the window. Whatever was outside wanted to get in.